there's so much astrologically going on, and I feel like the end of this year is just going to be super interesting, like just unfolding all of the chapters of the astrology, and there's quite like significant changes coming in January 2022. That sounds weird to say.
Hello, Taiyla.
Hello.
This is so exciting. Oh my God. Welcome to my little podcast. Thank you for jumping on with me. This is amazing.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm going to let you kind of introduce yourself. Like, you've just actually know so much and it's amazing. And I know you have so many different skills, so I'm going to let you just do your thing. Tell us all about you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. As soon as you messaged me in regards to this, I was just like, yeah, this is going to be beautiful and aligned. But anyway, so I'm Taiyla Bayne. I'm an intuitive astrologer and I'm also a vocalist. So recently I've been focusing a lot on kind of transforming my energy through the use of sound and just creativity and creation, and just sort of watching how I can evolve as a person through my creativity. But basically I do astrology readings for people, and I run like my social media, obviously, which mainly like my purpose and my kind of mission is just to kind of like be a thought creator or like a mind opener and sort of talk about things that are interesting or, you know, sort of on the more intuitive side, you know, for sensitive people who kind of have all these feelings or these emotions but don't really know what to do with them or don't exactly understand where everything comes from. And yeah, so I guess I'm kind of like a multitasker because there's a lot of different avenues that I like to touch on, because I feel like, especially with astrology, like it's so wide, you know, it goes into every aspect of your life. It's like career, it's relationships, it's yourself, it's your communication, it's how you love. So to me, it's just been this like big Pandora's box of like just continuously opening and peeling back like new layers. So it's just been so fun for me to learn about, and that's why I just love to teach it as well.
Yeah, I find it so interesting going down that rabbit hole of astrology and like delving into it all. And like when I met you at the time, I was a complete mess. If you can remember, I was in such a dark space, and yeah, it just from that point onwards, after meeting you, you've just uncovered so much for me. So it was awesome. Yeah, so really it's very interesting that astrology can just absolutely transform your whole journey and really make it clear as to how to get where you want to go.
Absolutely.
What really got you into astrology to start with? Like, what was the key moment that made you go, oh, okay, this is it?
You know, it's really funny because I feel like I always hear people say this, but I kind of like stumbled across it in a way. It wasn't necessarily something I was fixated on, as much as it was something that I kind of needed. I feel like I've always been super sensitive, and I feel like I've always thought quite deeply. And I have this researching mind, you know, like I love to research, I love to find out about things. And I think I just started kind of being like, what does this mean? Like, why do I feel like that? Or why do I think like that? And I would just like start researching, or like, you know, just finding like random books somewhere, or like being introduced to a concept from somebody. Like I felt like it was quite like synchronistic. And then I remember one of my friends, she actually said like, you should put readings up, like just put readings up, like you give me advice all the time. And I was like, okay, I don't know who's gonna buy that, but we'll just chuck it up. And then anyway, from then it just kind of like steamrolled from there. And I just realized like, oh, like people don't know this information or really love and find this information really valuable. And then it kind of just kept going. And I've always kind of struggled with anxiety or like depression. Like I've had very like depressive kind of moments in my life. And I think I was just like looking for like, how do I understand myself so I can understand this, so I can want to be here, you know? Like, it was very difficult at times for me to want to be here because I just felt so overwhelmed as like a sensitive person that the world didn't really have a space for yet. And I think I really wanted to create that space for myself and then for other people as well. And yeah, astrology was just like, I was like, oh my God, there's so much I can learn about this. Like, I won't get bored. Like, it's just like endless. And the more I realized about myself, the more I could see things in others and like could just mirror things to them. And I don't know, so the way I got into astrology was just, yeah, by like following the little breadcrumbs that I was being given by, you know, the universe or kind of energy in the world. I just felt like it was kind of a natural progression.
I definitely feel like people go from needing something and finding so much interest in it and just enjoying it to then taking it and bringing it out and giving it to others and like being of service in that way and like showing people that, you know, I came from this and I've used all of this to come here and you can do the exact same. And that's how so many people just like get into these jobs, and people are stuck doing their 9-to-5 jobs thinking like, oh, I can't do that, I can't do this, I don't have the skills for that. But really everyone's just like taking interest into a subject, delving into it, and then yeah, going from there, and that's how they kind of find their jobs. So is the readings and that pretty much your day job now?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I feel like my readings are kind of like the work that I'm just designed to do, no matter how much I kind of try to stray from it. Like, there's a few elements to the birth chart, for example, that show you like different aspects of like your career or the way you like to connect with people. And for me, like, the readings really have a lot to do with like my soul work and like my soul purpose that sometimes I find difficult because I am like sensitive, but it is just a part of my chart that I feel like it happens anyway. And it's like, I might as well just throw myself into my like day job, but it's just like a constant part of my reality and my life. So yeah.
That's so cool. And like you speak about like people being sensitive and not understanding their emotions or where it's coming from and wanting to. And I think that's such a valuable thing to have in the world at this point in time, because there's so many people like overwhelmed or struggling or anxious or depressed, and they've got no idea how to cope with it or how to manage it or what's triggering it, because they've got all this energy coming from their, you know, south node. And yeah, I think it's just a perfect time for people to like learn about this stuff, really.
Absolutely. I love that you're touching on the south node. And like, it's funny to, once you start, you know, looking at yourself and kind of like peeling back these layers, you realize where all of your reactions come from and where all the heaviness is kind of situated. And by looking at it in the birth chart, I feel like it kind of makes it less personal, if that makes sense. So like, obviously before we know or like have an awareness of ourselves or how our energy moves or why things are happening, it's so like personal. Like every relationship, like everything that's happening, it's like you're doing this and I'm doing this and we're not right for each other or like whatever it is. But it's like there's so much more than that. Like people are mirrors to you. And a lot of the time when we're like in relationship, our relationships are really mirroring back this kind of unhealed work. And I really feel like one of those big themes that comes up to work on like kind of immediately or like first is like your south node energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the mirror theory, and that everything in your life is a reflection of yourself and like what's going on internally. I think that's amazing. And I literally look at everything in my life and I'm like, okay, how do I do the same thing, or how am I giving off the same energy? And it's so interesting to see how much is like, oh, okay, I'm literally doing the exact same thing that I'm getting annoyed at, you know, like I'm a bit of a hypocrite in certain ways. And a lot of people don't like to look at that, but you have to, because otherwise how are you ever going to evolve and get better? And so, yeah, that's where I suppose with the South Node stuff, it's really good to delve into. And so for any newbies that don't know anything about what the South Node is and what we're talking about, do you want to give them a bit of an explanation as to what it is?
Yes, sure. Also, I love what you said about like the mirror theory. But so pretty much your South Node, it's a placement in your chart. It's kind of like where you have come from energetically. So it's like an accumulation of energy. And it can be really comfortable to sit in it, but then it also creates chaos in your life. So it's kind of like this weird, interesting placement of like, it's like I want to be in this sign, but I don't want to be in this sign because it's creating havoc in my life, but I know it and I love it, and it's like, it's good, I feel good here, I know what to do with it. So pretty much you have your South Node and your North Node, and they're exactly opposite each other, and they'll be in exactly opposite zodiac signs. So for example, my South Node is in Taurus, my North Node is in Scorpio. So my South Node is my karmic energy. So Taurus is my karmic energy, and it's like my past life accumulated type energy. And then my North Node is Scorpio. So it's like my evolutionary sign. It's where my soul kind of wants to evolve and grow towards, because it's like, okay, you've had enough of this, kind of energy, and now we're trying to shift into understanding this sign a little more. So it's such an interesting part of the chart to look into, and it's a huge part of like my readings. I really try to hone in on that, just because it's so helpful for people to understand when they are actually sitting in their karmic energy and they're like, my life's turning to shit, why? And it's kind of like, well, if you can start to recognize when you're in your karmic energy, you can just be like, oh, cool, like I'm just experiencing my karmic energy, and like I'm having to like leave my comfort zone a little bit more and be like, okay, well, what's my soul asking me for? Like, where is it trying to evolve me towards? Often I find that like a lot of people kind of manifest others with the sign of their North Node. So for example, I met my husband, he was a Scorpio, and my North Node is Scorpio. I didn't know that at the time. And it's funny because I'm actually a Taurus. So I don't want to confuse people too much, but my sun sign is Taurus, and my South Node, my karmic energy, is Taurus as well. And my North Node is Scorpio, and my husband is a Scorpio. And it was just funny because we're complete opposites. And like meeting him, having a relationship with him, it just like showed me everything about those two nodal positions, for example. So it's really interesting to see the types of people that we manifest into our life, or kind of who we have designed to like work with or relate with in this lifetime, and what they're kind of showing us. And it's really interesting to sort of look at the astrology of both people and see how it's like relating and what it's trying to show us. But
that's so interesting. I love that you just kind of match up, and you do actually go towards like your North Node, because I know even with my partner, he's a Virgo sun and my North Node's in Virgo. So naturally you kind of just, connecting with people that are the energy that you want to achieve, I suppose. So that's incredible. That's so amazing. And is this just for this lifetime? So obviously if we're talking about reincarnation and you reincarnate as a different human or whatever, that's just for that lifetime each time. Is that the case?
Yeah, so I guess I'm not sure I'm going to answer your question properly, but the way I feel about the South Node energy, it's just like an accumulated energy over time. That's how I feel it in my body. Like I feel like it's from maybe several lifetimes. Some people might believe it's just from their previous lifetime. I think it's kind of dependent on the person as well. But for me, it definitely feels like kind of like more of an accumulative energy. And then, like I guess in regards to your question, it's like, who knows if like how many lifetimes it takes to like move towards our next North Node, or maybe it is just like each lifetime. Like, who knows? I feel like it's quite dependent on the person.
Yeah, no, because I had the thought, I was like, imagine if our souls are literally just moving around like the zodiacs. Like you just have to, like this lifetime you have to move to Scorpio, and then for the next life you just keep going around and around until your souls have like completed the full zodiac, and then that's
Exactly.
it. You become like an angel or a spirit guide, and you're just like vibing up there. Like, yeah.
No, I have felt the same.
And so if you were gonna try and guide people towards their north node, away from their south node energy, what kind of advice or tips would you give people?
So the very first thing is awareness. Like, that's what I love to bring in my readings. It's just like, oh, okay, I have a south node. This is the sign that it's in. This is the house that it's in, like the area of life that it plays out in the most. And I feel like that awareness just gives an individual the ability to, like, when something comes up in their reality, they can kind of just have that level of, like, being able to see or feel like, oh, this could be like karmic, or do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that awareness level is just the first most important thing, like to just be aware when it's coming up, because it's so much easier to accept, like if you can just see it. So that would probably be my second step, is accept the south node energy. I think a lot of people try, like when they find out about the south node, they really try to separate themselves from the south node and say like, oh, well, I don't resonate with that sign and I can't do things that sign, is involved with. And the biggest thing about the south node is I feel like there's so many beautiful gifts in it, because it's something you've mastered, and that's why it's not interesting in this lifetime to your soul. That's why there's like a new direction. But that doesn't mean you like just drop everything you're good at and drop all of the amazing qualities about yourself. And I think that's like especially interesting with somebody who has their south node as their sun sign. So for me, I was like, I'm a Taurus and my south node's in Taurus, and we're meant to just, like, my whole basic personality is wrong. It's like, not necessarily. Although I haven't met anybody or done a reading for anyone who actually has their south node as their sun sign. So it is quite like an interesting thing to cope with. But there's a few different things that like I look at when I'm looking at someone's south node. For example, like if the south node is retrograde, I kind of feel into like some different elements about like what that could mean for them, which mine is. And then I'm a Taurus sun. And it's funny because I'm so centered around music, and Taurus rules the throat chakra. And usually if I was just using my logical mind, it'd be like, cool, music is not for me. Like, no throat chakra. Do you know what I mean? Like if we were just being like very black and white. That's the thing about astrology. It has to be felt in the body. And it's very important. Like, you can read all the books and articles that you want, but I feel like that's why it's important to kind of have an intuitive astrologer. It's like, it's not just this is what it is. It's like, well, this is what it could feel like in your body, and this is how it could, manifest in your reality as this like individual, because everybody has different aspects in their chart that work with the nodes and things like that as well. So there's just so much to it. I don't know if I love how I just go on literally 100 tangents of your question.
No, I love it. It literally is so fascinating, and I find it so interesting. People will just go absolutely trash on astrology, that, oh my God, people talk about horoscopes and this and that, and it's just like total BS. And it's like, oh, there's so much to it and you have no idea, man. So
I love that. I love that, what you just said about the horoscopes. I feel like, yeah, I've come across so many people who are just like, oh, I don't resonate with my sun sign. And it's like, okay, you have a moon sign, which is like who you are when you're younger. Do you know what I mean? Like so there's so many different aspects, and you could be like really close to another sign. A lot of astrologers don't believe in cusp signs. I do. That's just because I feel intuitively about it. And I feel like a person can be in between two spaces. But yeah, I think that's probably the number one misconception about astrology, is like that it's just basic. Like there's so many different layers, and I really, through my own like active exploration, I've really found that it's like your stars are kind of like this map of your mind and your psyche. And I really feel like the more you like kind of travel along this like psyche of yours and like experience like your astrology, I don't know, it's like so interactive to me, and it's so like just so interesting, the layers. But yeah, I feel like it's definitely misunderstood unless you're open and like willing to delve into it.
Mm. And when you say you're an intuitive reader, how are you intuitive in what sense? Because I know there's a whole array of different like intuitives, like feeling, hearing, seeing. So what's your gift?
I think ultimately what I really try to do is, when I say intuitive, I think what I'm really saying is like, I'm really trying to tap into that person. I'm really trying to tap into their reality. Like, I feel like there's so many people on this planet experiencing things so differently, as, we all have so many vast experiences. And I think when I say I'm an intuitive astrologer, I just really try to tap into their body, regardless of like my thoughts, my beliefs, and like try to really take them as the person that is right there, as this unique person with all different kinds of energies and experiences. And I try not to have too many kind of beliefs about approaching everything. And I kind of just like, when I think about intuition, it just feels like very feminine and unfolding, like I like to just listen and feel and hear. Like, before all of my readings, I always ask to be connected to the person's higher self, the person's guides, the person's body, the person's like feelings and thoughts and emotions. And I kind of just like take it from there and like kind of feel into their body about how they experience life, because that gives me a better and clearer like ability to communicate their chart to them.
That's really cool. So do you have like a certain practice you do before readings? Is it like a grounding practice, a meditation? What sort of things?
Yes, well, this is an interesting topic, because I remember at the start when I started to do readings, I was like, I have to do all the things, like what tools can I use? I'm going to, like cleanse myself. I'm going to like have like, a beautiful like drink and like just do all of these things. And then I sort of started delving into like having more like of a conversational experience with, my clients. And I feel like now it's kind of just like I can feel when I'm connected, and I also trust that I'm connected, and I trust that if they're coming to me, then it's designed to unfold perfectly, if that makes sense. So I think I have more trust now than I ever have before. So I probably don't do like all of the practices, but what I will do is I'll always mostly it's about me being a pillar and a channel. So mostly it's kind of about like my own work, because if I'm open to hearing and feeling accurately and being able to communicate it to the person and having like confidence in myself, I feel like everything flows a lot easier. So usually my practices really involve visualization. I'm a massive visualization person. I do a lot of visualizations like in my readings, because I feel like they're just so powerful and really like energetically like clearing and like just powerful. So yeah, I'll always do like some kind of visualization that connects me into the earth and its people, into my body, into like this human experience, and then also up like and into source and universe, an energy that I can't see, and like my angels, my guides, my higher self, God, like whatever you want to call it. And I just I imagine it like a tree of life. So like roots going down into the earth, connecting me to people, because sometimes I've really wanted to disconnect from humans and being a human. And so I've just wanted to be in the universe. So I've really had to be like, okay, well, if I'm going to channel for people, and if I'm going to help people on this earth and be a teacher, then there kind of has to be both. Like I have to be dualistic. And it's like I have to be a human and have these human experiences to best connect with humans. And I truly feel like that's why a lot of us do go through such heavy, kind of depression and things like that. Because it's like, I feel like now I'm such a person with like wisdom and awareness, because I've been taken there myself, that it's like my teachings are truly coming from like a place that is grounded and human, and I've walked it and I've felt it. And so I really understand the sensitivity of the people I'm like connecting with. But so I do a visualization of connecting into the earth and its people, and then connecting like with roots, like up into the universe. And then I just imagine myself as that like beautiful like pillar or trunk or channel that can just kind of like beam information out. So for me, before a session, it's really about becoming receptive and open and grounded so that I can actually be used almost, and feel protected and feel really strong and really like just open and aware so I can let things through, you know?
I definitely understand what you mean with like going through that darkness and that heaviness of like that dark night of the soul sort of vibe, you know, and then coming out the other side and being like, I just want to disconnect from this universe, this planet. I just want to be up in the universe, floating around, chilling. And to really be a catalyst for change on the planet, you have to be here and be human and live the experience and deal with all the human things that we go through. So it's so beneficial for all of us. Even I know so many people would be like, oh my God, no, you can't say that. People shouldn't go through depression. Don't wish that upon anyone. But we've also got to go through these things so that we can share our experiences, move past, evolve, and develop and become better. And especially for people like yourself who are change makers and people that encourage people to be their best version of themselves, you know, it has to come from somewhere. It has to come from an experience. So, yeah, that's Definitely. so incredible.
And I feel like it's interesting with experiences like depression because it's like sometimes we can't see the whole picture. So it feels really, you know, ridiculous and almost pointless and just terrible, like the suffering that we have to go through. But it's kind of like what I'm really realizing is like that there's so many other things and we're only sort of in one piece of the puzzle and we can't like really zoom out and like see what everything is for when we're so in it. And I think that's why I love astrology, because it's like it shows you like, hey, this could be why you're going to have some like intense human experiences, but then zoom out and look at your whole chart, you know, like there's these particular parts that show you some like wounded areas, but then when you look at the whole chart, it's like, oh, I get it. Like I see this full circle moment happening.
Absolutely. I suppose that's why it's shaped like a circle then, your birth chart. You have to go around the whole thing, baby. What would you say has been the most interesting part of it that you've experienced, I suppose, in like everyday life that you've gone, oh, that's pretty cool. I know about that. I know why that person's acting like that. Or
you know what? Every day I feel like I have an experience like that. That's why I like stand behind, I guess, astrology so much, is because like technically I am quite like a logical person. So I really feel like astrology has like had to prove and has proven to me that there is, you know, basis in it, if that makes sense. But obviously sometimes it's hard to believe in something we don't see. But I feel like every day I have interesting like astrology, like awakenings or like moments of like, whoa, you know, like even I think the best moments are like when I'm really feeling something and I'm like, whoa, something's happening, what's going on? And then I'll look at like what's coming up, like if there's a full moon coming up or if there's like an interesting transit happening, and I literally just go to that part of my chart and then I'm like, wow, and it will just describe what I've just been feeling, you know? So I feel like it's not as if I'm just getting the knowledge and then looking for evidence that it's true. It's more like I'm feeling it in my body and then becoming aware of the astrology, and then it's confirmed to me, which I really like appreciate. And I feel like those things happen, yeah, just super often. And I feel like some people are just extra connected to like universal movements without knowing. Like I feel like a lot of people are connected to other people. I feel like a lot of people are connected to the earth. I feel like some people are really connected to like astrological movements, maybe a little bit more than others. And I feel like they're the kind of people who can translate it because they kind of have that like ability to be so tapped into it. But it can feel really intense to be like moved around by the astrological like weather, so to speak. But yeah, so I'd say those moments, and then also just I think witnessing relationships is like really fun and interesting to me as well. Like I'm always like, oh, I see what they're doing together. Or like, you know, I can kind of like just even through my relationships, I'm just like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, I'll look at, like, I'll compare our charts or whatever, and I can just see the exact dynamics that are playing out, or the thing that they have that really annoys me or like irritates me, but it's like a part of myself. And just like, yeah. So just all of those synchronicities. I have to say the synchronicities just like blow me away.
And is there something like that you use to look to see like what's happening in the like universe and the planets and things like that? Is there like a website? Do you use CoStar? Do you use, I know there was some controversy with CoStar. I don't know all the details, but I knew there was controversy. And there was another one as well that I have on my phone that I sometimes will look at and like, oh, what's going on? So do you have any like little apps or gizmos that you use?
Yes, I'm all for like a fun astrology app. I don't like put too much like emphasis on them, but I do like just enjoy having a look and like comparing people and whatever. But mostly I just use Time Passages, which is an app that you can get on your phone. You can upload other people's birth charts. You can upload your own birth chart. You can see like the full picture of it, like so the full chart with like all of the houses. You can go through your aspects, and they've got like little descriptions for them all. And I kind of, and then you can see like the current astrology. So where the moon actually is today, for example, where Venus is at the moment. So I love Time Passages. Every morning I'll just kind of check like what's going on. Or if I've like had a chaotic moment, and then I'll like find myself in a weird situation, and then I'll check and I'll be like, why didn't I check this earlier? But yeah, no, I find Time Passages to be like just really like, for me, it's like a really great way to organize my day and like kind of my reality. Like if I know that a certain sign is like dominant, like today, for example, Aquarius is like really dominant. So I know that it's kind of going to be like forward thinking or like involved with technology, or futuristic in some way. And you're an Aquarius, which is why I chose this day. But yeah, so I really like, I highly suggest people use Time Passages. There's also a really beautiful astrological diary by The Magic of I.
Oh my God, I have that. I love it so much.
It's so beautiful. Magic of I, sponsor us. We're not sponsored, but we want to be.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so that's super beautiful because I feel like the diary, it also has like the void hours of the day, which might be too like in depth for this podcast maybe, but pretty much like when the moon is just not in a particular sign. That's kind of like a moment for us as feminines, especially, to like download and channel and like feel, and then take action when the moon moves into like the next zodiac sign. But yeah, so that's a really great diary, and Time Passages, great app.
See, I had no idea about the void thing. I was like, I don't get what this void thing is. Like, does it just disappear for a little bit? But that's so interesting. So essentially it's just kind of floating about. No, it's not near any sign in particular. Is that the point?
Yeah, pretty much it's just moving from one sign to the next. So it's void of course, like it's void of a course because it hasn't quite landed into the next sign. And if you're super like feminine and like feel really connected to your emotions, or notice that your emotions change often, it's because the moon changes sign every 2 to 2.5 days. So we're always being flavored by like a different zodiac sign emotionally.
I love that, flavored. We're being flavored by the signs of the moon. That's incredible.
Too spicy, universe.
Too spicy sometimes. It's hard. And I just want to ask you, do you like human design and stuff like that? Because I know human design is like a huge combination of a variety of different human mappings, astrology, and all sorts. I can't even list them all. There's so many.
I know it's funny that you ask, because I've just started to really like delve deep into it, like the gates, the channels, and it's seriously profound because I love to find a new modality that I can just like rip apart, and it just goes so deep. But I've not sort of dabbled in too much outside of astrology, just because I find astrology to be like, it just cuts through to like the core of everything for me, and there's so much to explore there that like I'm still exploring it, because as you age, and as different events happen, like more of your chart is triggered and activated. So for me, there's just always new things, and it's just so amazing, like, to learn and evolve as a human, like, through using astrology. But human design has it is astrology. Do you know what I mean? So it's like but it's just like a different vehicle, I suppose, of like understanding it or learning it, and with different terminology. But it's helped me so much to just understand that, I'm a manifesting generator, or, whatever. I haven't gone super deep into how all of these concepts have come about. Like, I definitely don't feel like a master of it. But I definitely just feel like anything that can help you understand yourself, why not sort of delve into it and like explore, So yeah, I've been really enjoying human design. You're a generator, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a generator. Yeah. And I remember when I first did my chart on human design and said I was a generator, I was so annoyed. And it was like you make up 70% of the population, and the Aquarius in me was just like, what the heck?
I love that. But that's because generators are obviously generators and manifesting generators lumped together. That's why. But no, I feel you.
I've accepted it, and I love it because I'm like, you know what? It's actually me. I'm constantly just giving out my energy. I'm like, here, you have some, and you have some. Enjoy.
And like the amazing thing about you being a generator is like, so for me, I'm a manifesting generator, but my energy works in bursts. As opposed, like, I go void almost, like the moon, like I go into this like, okay, I need to rest and chill, and I can feel all this stuff, and then I'll go really hard and fast at like a million different things and get them all done. But I feel like the amazing thing about generators is like they have this sustainable energy to like work with something over time, and I feel like that's just so helpful and like beautiful. And when they're lit up, I feel like they are just like, constant inspirations to people of like, I don't know. It just feels like this constant like bubbling energy of just like, working at something and just like enjoying something for a long period of time. Like, I feel like I really like can plummet sometimes. So
that's so interesting. Yeah, because I know with like generators, especially myself, it was a real aha moment when I realized that if I'm not doing things that I like and enjoy, my energy will just go, and I'll hate it, and I'll get so mad and frustrated. But if I'm doing stuff I enjoy, I can keep going for days. Like, I will go and go and go. So it's interesting with manifesting generators that you guys need to have your moment to like chill.
There you go.
So with the human design, are you looking to delve into it a bit more at some point?
Well, I think something that I've noticed is like, what I'm noticing right now with astrology and human design is kind of like, I feel like I'm sort of reaching this point where because all the time when I'm learning, I always feel this connection between like being both the student and the teacher. So it's like I'm teaching astrology, but I'm also like learning about deeper aspects of astrology whilst I'm teaching more basic aspects of astrology. So I feel like kind of what I'm doing at the moment is like, I feel quite like around and like aware of astrology, and I feel like I can really start to give that to people more and more. And then as I start to do that and start to kind of master that as like a teacher a little bit more, I feel like I then am kind of becoming a student in like a different area, which is like obviously like deepening my knowledge again of everything and allowing me to become a better teacher. I hope that made sense. But yeah, I kind of just feel like I'm kind of the person that constantly, like, even though I'm teaching, I'm constantly learning and like deepening my own knowledge, I'm not just sort of like staying at the same like level and just teaching and like learning the same thing. So I always like to reach for like a little bit beyond me or a little bit more than what I might know.
I think it's such an amazing thing though, to be a teacher and a student at the same time. And people want teachers that are also students, because without you still learning, how are you going to stay being a teacher? It's that innovation of continuing to grow and evolve.
Absolutely.
With that, on astrology, do you have any updates for us at the moment?
I feel like there are a lot of things happening right now. We have the Pisces full moon coming up, which Pisces is the final zodiac sign. And it's like this wrapping up, it's like this ending of something. It's like this full circle moment, whether physically, mentally, emotionally. And then we've also got Mercury retrograde coming up. Mercury retrograde always sends people into a bit of a spin. But for me, like, this is probably a pretty interesting topic as well, is like, for some people, Mercury retrograde is actually really comforting. So, for example, Mercury in my chart is retrograde. So when I was born, it was retrograde. So when we go into Mercury retrograde, I often find that I'm actually like more at home with it. It's like more how I operate. So like a lot of people, when Mercury goes retrograde, it's like, oh, like the usual plans I have and the usual like ways and processes and you know, just ways that you would go about things, like they're affected. Like people are late, things don't work. Like right now, for example, we're in Mercury retrograde shadow. So it's kind of starting to happen. But yeah, I find like that people who have their Mercury retrograde in their chart, they find it to be like, whoa, like, you know, like this is crazy. Or like if they're trying to really do things how they should do them, like according to society, or according to their logic, it doesn't work out overly well because Mercury is like turning inward. Do you know what I mean? Like, so for me, because my Mercury is already inward, I feel like I kind of shine and get to come out because I naturally don't feel like obliged by like time, and like I naturally don't want to kind of like abide by the structured and like intense, stern way that like society kind of operates. So for me, I feel like it's more flowing because everybody's in chaos. So it's kind of like the chaos is perfect, and I like that. So yeah, Mercury retrograde's coming up, and that will be super interesting. But there's so much astrologically going on, and I feel like the end of this year is just going to be super interesting, like just unfolding all of the chapters of the astrology. And there's quite like significant changes coming in January 2022. That sounds weird to say, 2022. Yeah, so that will be really interesting. But I would just say for everyone to just stick with what's happening right now, and also understand that it's not actually what it looks like, and it's not all it that there is. You don't have all the information yet. Do you know what I mean? And everything is so changeable. It's constantly changing, and it's constantly moving in cycles, and it's very circular. So yeah, I think that's the great thing about following along with astrology and the moon. You kind of learn like, oh, everything's a matter of time. You know, everything's a matter of like the cycles. And I know for me, it's been so difficult to stay aware of that higher perspective, but I think astrology can really like help with that.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that. And next year, January 2022, so weird to say, but like there's going to be a big shift, and there's going to be a lot that changes and happens. And even myself, I'm like, I can feel it. Something is going to happen, something big that we're not ready for or we don't expect. It's just going to be a huge shift. And honestly, I'm excited for it.
I know. And always I feel like the great thing to remember is like we have all of the tools, and just because something feels or like appears in, you know, our reality, like something that's beyond us, like we're here for a reason. And it's like at some point we have to kind of be okay with being in our bodies. And I feel like I'm going to go kind of deep here with this, but like I feel like a lot of the difficulty with dealing with like the human difficulties that come up are really related around our, I don't know if I want to say fear of death, but maybe it's kind of like, it's like, okay, if we weren't afraid of like being hurt or our bodies leaving this planet or something diabolical happening, how differently would we approach everything? I just feel like ultimately, if you can just understand you're here until you're not, and we can just try and like kind of, you know, embody what's happening with as much like awareness and like compassion as possible. I feel like that's kind of like the formula, you know, of life a little bit, and just not having so much like fear. I read this quote that said, fear is just punishment unsought. And like, to me, what that kind of means, or like translated to me, was like, fear is like what happens in your body before you have like come to terms with something. So I feel like, yeah, ultimately fear and anxiety are just it's just like things we haven't experienced yet, or are worried that we couldn't survive through, or aren't powerful or strong enough to deal with. And I feel like life is constantly trying to show us that like we're powerful and we're strong. And
yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Like, I think our anxieties and our fears often come from future things that haven't actually happened that we think might happen, or they come from past experiences that we think are going to happen again. So it's really coming to a point of creating neutrality. And a lot of people don't realize that our nervous system just holds on to so much stuff and a lot of past stuff. And it's coming to the point and bringing back in our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our like relax and rest. That's the point we want to be at, because that's the point of being grounded and calm. And when we snap into our sympathetic nervous system and we're fight, flight, or freezing, we're just reacting to life. We're not experiencing it. We're not a part of it. It's just, we're just going with the motions, and we're not actually making active decisions.
I love that. Absolutely. They're kind of the gray areas with like me, giving advice of like, experience the fear and imagine the scenario happening. Is like, that's the difficult part with that, is your mind and your body don't really let you do that, because it is so traumatic for the body to either relive or try to experience something like that when you've had, significant trauma. And that's why in my readings, I always, when I'm looking at someone's chart, I go towards the Chiron and towards the South Node, because it's really the most important thing to become aware of and to really try and open yourself into that healing. Your Chiron is like a manifestation of past life trauma, and it also relates to trauma that we can experience in our childhood. So it's definitely a place that I direct people to immediately, because it's like the more that we can, yes, get our parasympathetic nervous system, firing up and kind of coming out of survival, the more that we can thrive. So there's definitely different layers of astrology. There's like the survival layer that I go through with clients, where we're like, okay, like let's kind of try and move out of this. Let's become aware of this. Let's delve into some, childhood and more like kind of traumatic memories or moments, so we can start to kind of like bring it up in a gentle way, and then move towards thriving and move towards, some of the more enjoyable creative parts of the chart, like career and like enjoying like your purpose on this earth and things like that. But yeah, there's definitely so many aspects to life and trauma and astrology.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's honestly incredible, like looking into all this stuff, because the moment we look into this stuff and we start to work on that and try and get ourselves back out of that survival mode, that's where we thrive. That's where we're going to enjoy life, and we're not just going to react and respond to everything that we see. It's going to purely be based on decision and action, and this really grounded sense of self, which is where we all want to be at, because yeah, life is meant to be enjoyed. It's not meant to be this hard and heavy thing this whole time. Yes, we need hard moments, but we need a lot of the good too.
It's like we're here to realize ourselves, and evolve through different aspects of ourselves. And yeah, I just think that the biggest thing to have is like an open and willing mind, to delve into that and to see how you could evolve and transform and grow. And there's so many layers of shedding that have to happen before that, like through healing and clearing and feeling, and so many societal conditionings and like family dynamics that have really been like conditioned into our minds. But yeah, so many like shedding moments, and then a beautiful evolution.
Absolutely. And so if anyone wants to experience one of your readings or follow you, where would they go?
Definitely come to my Instagram. I feel like I'm quite active on my Instagram. You can just directly message me or follow the links in the bio, but you'll find me at Taiyla Bayne. And then you'll also find my music pages, and you can find my music on Spotify as well and other streaming channels. But yeah.
Yeah, your music is actually incredible. I literally was obsessed with the song, was it Stars?
Yes.
Oh, that's I love it so much. It's incredible. And it's Taiyla with the Taiyla. Yes, Taiyla. I've lost my camera, I've lost you, but thank you so much for jumping on here. That was actually awesome. Thank you.
I loved it. Thank you so much for having me.